Hello everyone, today we are going to understand function and scope in JavaScript, and we will start on function where we will cover the basic syntax for function with parameter, function with return value, function expression, arrow function, and we will also look on the scope, and we will focus on three main types of scope: global scope, function scope, and block scope. So let's start with the function. Function is a reusable block of code that perform a specific task. Think like input, processing, and output. And the syntax for function, we start with function keyword, function name. Let's use log username. You put the bracket, open and close bracket, curly brace, and inside there, that is where we call body of our function. Here you put task or code which is going to be executed when our function is called. Let's say we want to console the name of user. Let's say John, and we are going to call our function. You also write your name, log username, and you also at the end put the bracket, open and close bracket, and let's try to check the result. As you can see, we are getting our username. And now let's look on parameter. Think like we want to console a name specified by user, uh, and at that time we don't know how many users who is going to give us the name. So the function parameter goes inside the bracket. Let's say username, and let's try to console username instead of consoling the static name. Sorry, I make the syntax here I write in wrong way. You have to make sure that the parameter name is go to the consoling name here you are consoling. So, and also by calling the function, you specify the parameter, and at that time we don't call them parameter, we call them argument. Means argument is the value that you give the function when you are calling the function. So let's say uh, John, and when you try to check out, you can see we are getting the username. And let's try to call the function for main time to check how it will respond. And let's say though, yeah, as you can see, we are also getting the those usernames. And let's look about the return value. When you say return value, we use keyword return, and we return our username. And because we are returning value, it means that we cannot be able to see the our usernames, which means we have to take the function call and wrap into console log to be able to see the username. Let's say John again. Yes, as you can see, we are getting the username. So let's now look on function expression. When we say function expression is the time when we initialize the function to a variable. For instance, let's say we have variable add, and here we we put function without name, anonymous function, and to create it we use the keyword function, open bracket, and we go inside to specify our function body. Let's say console log uh, 1 plus 2, and to call this function it is normal way we just say add and we call the function, and as you can see we are having our result 3. So this is the function expression, means it is the time when we initialize the function to a variable, and we take this with arrow function. The arrow function are a modern function where there is no keyword for function. We just specify this open and close bracket, and then you put equal arrow, and also here you do task for your function which is going to perform, and also you can call this function again and we get the same result. As you can see here, it is the best and easy way to work with function. So let's now look on the scope. When we say the scope determines where variables are accessible. uh, we start with global scope. The global scope declares the variable outside of any function uh, are the global, means they can be accessible in all JavaScript program. For instance, let's say you have greeting, we say hello, and you have a function here. Uh, let's uh, say hello, and inside of this function we are going to call the our greeting variable, and let's call this function to check the result. And here it means we are going to access this greeting variable inside this function we created called say hello. Let's try to check the the result. As you can see, I am accessing this variable inside of this function from outside, which means this variable is global variable, is in global scope. So let's now look on the function scope. When we say the function scope, the variables declared inside the function are private to that function, which means you cannot access those variables outside of the function. Let's come and say we have a let greeting equal to hello user, and when we try to call this function, you see we are getting hello user. But when we come and say console.log greeting, we are going to have an error because this greeting is not defined in global scope, which means the greeting variable here are private to that function called say hello only. And the last one is block scope. The block scope, they are the variables declared with let and cons, and they respect broke scope, the carry brace. For instance, let's say we have an if condition which is returning true. Let's say we have rate a equal to 10, and we are going to access the value of this a plus for example 10. So what is going to happen here? This variable a will only be accessible inside of this function, sorry, inside of this if condition. When we try to check the result, we get the same error, which is a is not defined, because AR is respected to block scope. And whenever you try to use it outside of the scope, it is going to give you an error. So thank you very much for your time.